Hello everyone, and thanks for coming back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the ImmersionRC PowerPlay. It's a DVR. That's the first question I have before we even get into this. How important is your DVR? As a micropilot and someone who does post YouTube videos, my DVR is pretty important, but how important is it to you? And do you fly micros? I'll probably ask you that again. It's a pretty simple device when it comes down to using it. We've got our batteries here in the back. They're 18500 cells, just like they come in the X-Lite. You can see I've already removed them. These are what comes stock. It has been noted by the manufacturer that these batteries don't perform well, but these batteries are the only ones that they could get the shipping safety certificates for. So they're included. It will get you started if you don't have any of this size cell. But they do note they don't perform very well. And I noticed, especially when you try to power your goggles using this, that the battery meter on it immediately went down to 50% or less just upon plugging in and powering on your goggles. So that's the first thing you'll want to get rid of. It comes with a short cord that you use if you're going to strap this to your head. This is the end that goes to your goggles. This is the end that goes to the PowerPlay. It also comes with a much longer version of that you can stick in your pocket. I would estimate this to be about 3 foot long, so plenty long enough to get in your pocket unless you're 7 foot tall or so. We've got the head strap mount here, and this will only fit the narrower size of strap. The thick strap that comes with the SkyZone or the fat straps or rad straps or ethic straps, they're not going to fit in here because it's just too wide. I actually tried to stuff my SkyZones in there and I just couldn't make it work. But it does have some nice padding here on the back. We've also got a strap that goes up top if you want to use that to loop up over your head, and it clips in the back here pretty nice and easy. It also comes with 2 spare sets of foam for the head bracket. It comes with a replacement fan mount so that you can use the overhead strap. It also comes with a little screwdriver if you care to use it. And it also comes with that over-the-head strap. It's a simple Velcro strap that you use just to loop it around at whatever position that you need it, and it'll hold it in place just fine. It weighs just over 127 grams. With the head bracket, the strap, and the short cable, it weighs 173.5 grams. I did try it once with the head bracket and the strap, and I didn't care for it, but that's very personal. In this comparison, you may find it gets slightly out of sync. I worked very hard to try to get this in sync. The problem for me is I'm not a professional movie maker. I'm just a guy who likes to fly and makes videos. So what you'll find is that we do get a few frames out of sync a little bit as we further get into this flight footage. Also note that in this particular one, I have the PowerPlay connected to the SkyZone 030 goggles. Those are the new goggles that I've been using as daily drivers. After this, we'll go ahead and flip it. We'll put the PowerPlay on the HDO goggles and we'll take another look just as you're seeing before you. But this gives you an idea of what you should expect as far as the DVR recording. It did detect my camera as PAL. I think it detected my camera as PAL. There's very little information available for this yet. The manual, as Tony Cake put it, is a work in progress. I'm not sure how it goes about detecting whether it should be PAL or NTSC, if that's through the goggles or through the image that it's receiving. On my quad, I have the camera set to auto. Do what you like with that information. But we just cruise around the yard. We just take a little flight. I try not to go too fast so that you can kind of break things down. If you have any troubles, go ahead and go down to that gear icon if you're watching on the desktop version of YouTube and slow the video footage down. Of course, I'll sound real weird. On the mobile platform, I believe that's also available. I really don't watch much YouTube on my phone. That's just something I don't really do. I did find when I used the PowerPlay with the Fat Shark goggles, I had to shove in the AV cable in a lot harder than I thought I would, at least harder than I did on the SkyZone 030 goggles. And that caught me out a little bit. A few times I thought, I had a problem. I thought either my out port on my goggles didn't work. Thankfully, I had 2 pairs of Fat Shark goggles to try it on, and neither one of them really worked. I could get a flicker when I moved it around, and that should have cued me in, but it didn't. Eventually, I did note that I didn't have it in or seated far enough, and I went ahead and pushed it a little bit harder, and you could hear that click, and then I had an image on the screen, so it works just as planned. You can use this to power your goggles. On the Fat Shark goggles, it's going to work quite well. This is a very Fat Shark-centric product. It's designed for the Fat Sharks. ImmersionRC has released some Fat Shark DVR firmware updates, so it will work very well with those because the audio and video out of the Fat Shark goggles is right next to where you plug your battery in. So that makes it real nice and easy. If you're using the SkyZone goggles, the power connector is on one side and the audio video port is on the other side. So if you're using SkyZone goggles or really other goggles at any nature, you may find if you have another cable that's kind of strapped across your nose or running over your head, or you end up in some sort of cabling mesh, when you put your goggles on, if you choose to use it also as your power source for your goggles. This product can work as a DVR for other goggles as well. It's not something that you have to use with Fat Shark or Fat Shark like goggles. This is a product that you can plug into other goggles that does have video out. You'll be able to record that signal, because really all the goggles is doing is relaying what it puts to the screen, and all the PowerPlay does is capture it and capture it with its own DVR. Now we're taking a look at basically the same footage, different flight. The PowerPlay is now connected to the Fat Shark HDO goggles, and I did this as a curiosity, and I thought others might be just as curious, so I thought I should at least try it and sync it up. For me, it was something to check. I want to do a comparison of the DVRs, because that's the primary feature, but does it perform possibly better or worse when plugged into different goggles? That's kind of what I was looking at. So you have that information available for you here. And this final segment, I went ahead and did a side-by-side. I thought this might be easier to diagnose for our eyes if we just did full screen side-by-side. In this segment where we're running side-by-side in the full vertical resolution, the PowerPlay is connected to the Fat Shark HDO goggles. This was just another measure I was trying to create, so if you were looking at this product, that you would have a better idea. You know, the three windows across is kind of interesting, but I think doing it vertically is probably the best way of being able to compare with our eyes. It's a lot easier to see. Again, you may find that the footage is slightly out of sync. I did the best I could with the skills that I have and the software that I use. So it is what it is. I've worked on it and worked on it. And as we finish up watching this little segment, I'm not going to roll the whole thing. I'd like to know what you think. What do you think right now? This product retails for somewhere around $90. You'll probably find it a little bit lower than $90, a little bit over $90, depending on where you shop, where you live. Is it worth $90? And if it isn't worth $90, why is that? I'm very curious. For me and what I do, this product could become very, very important. I'm going to play with it a little bit more. I'm also very curious about the comments that I get on this video. I feel that many of you are better at detecting qualities of image, so I'm going to rely on you a little bit and whether or not I've wasted my $90 or if I've made a good investment that will enhance the viewing experience, because I do micros, and we're almost exclusively outside of HD FPV cameras, we're using DVR footage. So please leave your comment down below on what you've seen so far. If you like the PowerPlay, if you don't like the PowerPlay, I know that if I were to use it, it would decrease the amount of work that I have to do, because I think it would sync up with the stationary audio that I record during my flights. The last bit is just the operation. It's very, very simple. You've got your jack that you plug in here for your audio and video. You've got your micro SD card, and you've got your power out. So if you're going to power from the goggles down here, we've got our USB-C connector right here. This only functions as a charging port right now if you want to use it. Tony Cake did note that this will probably end up being a way you can retrieve your files off the PowerPlay instead of having to pop out your card and read it on your PC. But that firmware update should come in a week. I'm also very curious if that firmware update is going to come with a file that we plug in over here, or do we plug the USB-C connection in here and plug it into our computer to update it. Very curious about that. I would expect to be able to update it via our computer. I wonder if it's going to have an application with it. That's all to be determined yet. Up top, we've got a button up here, and when you plug it in for power, it has that little animation that lets you know it's charging. When it's full charging, the LEDs stop flashing and they just stay on. We've got a little jog wheel over here that we also press down. You can probably see it's got a little nubbin here on top. This helps us navigate. There's a very simple menu in here. Let's go ahead and jump into that. Powered on with a long press. Get the beep, we let off. This is kind of how the interface looks when you're not recording, that's just powered on. If you have a video source, then you get your image that you're receiving through your goggles on here. If I short press, just like I did, let me make sure my camera's focused. We get this simple menu, and the first thing you're gonna get when you power this on is you need to set the clock, and that's also probably very important for some people. I know for me, that would really come in handy, be able to have an actual time and date stamp that's valid on the files. That's really handy, rather than having it in the file name, actually being able to look at your Windows Explorer to look at all your files, and it shows it right there, and you can sort it via that value as well. So you can play back from here. You can also do a manual recording from here. If I were to want to select that, I press down on this jog wheel, and you can also format your SD. Here in general, we've the clock set here. My camera keeps getting out of focus, I apologize. So you just kind of navigate through this, being able to change the hour, the minute, the day, the month, the year. You can turn the beep on or off. You can reset, and the firmware version that I'm running is printed right here on the screen for your viewing pleasure. Let's go ahead and play a file. I'll get one queued up here. Here you can see we're watching the flight that you've probably already seen a time or two. And then if we want to fast forward or rewind, actually fast forward is to the right, rewind is to the left. And you see we get that little indicator up there. And we can go 8 times back and 8 times forward. Press down and it just goes back to play. It shows you the file name up here the entire time. I don't believe there's a way of getting rid of that for your viewing pleasure, but that's a minor thing in my opinion. It also tells you how many files you've got on there. I've got 7 files of there, and this is the 5th of the 7 that we're watching right now. As far as the screen goes, if you have any experience with these FPV watches, you might be able to tell that the screen is wider than the FPV watches, or at least the one I have here, the Top Sky one. I'm sorry, it's filthy dirty. Should have planned a little bit better there. So it's quite a bit wider, and it looks to be a little bit taller as well. And I'd say the quality of the screen is at least on par with those FPV watches, if not a little bit better. And here to wrap up, we have our file properties where you can see the frame rate, the total bit rate, the data rate, the frame width, height. The AVI files are the Fat Shark files. The MOV, the vid, and then .mov file is the SkyZone 030 goggles. And then the MOV file with the longer file name, that is the PowerPlay. So now that we've been through it all the way, let me ask you again. How important is the DVR in our goggles to you? Is this a product looking for a problem, or do we have a problem that this product solves? Let me know down in the comments section below. And also, remember, if your DVR is important, do you fly micros or not? That's good information for me. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the section down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.